It is once again another installment of No Nonsense Forex, where today we will be going over the curious case of the Trader's Dynamic Index, also known as the TDI Indicator. Does this tale have a happy ending? Or alas, will it turn out tragic, like so many that came before it? Will I continue speaking this way throughout the entire video? So many unanswered questions. So let's begin. Could you imagine finding this channel for the first time ever, and this is the first video you stumbled upon, and I started talking that way? I'm actually curious to go to my YouTube analytics and go to my watch time and see how many people didn't make it through the entire intro. But there is quite a story attached to this, and that's why I decided to kind of do it in this format. And it's also an indicator that a lot of you have been asking about. And that's not too surprising, really, because it is one charming son of a gun. I'll give it that. So in this video, we're going to talk about all-in-one indicators, because that is what the TDI is. It is a system of 4 different indicators that all work together. We're going to go over the pieces of it individually, because we definitely need to talk about them. And there is one good piece out of the 4. I'll go ahead and spoil that part. But like anything, when you find something that you think works, you need to test it. So we're actually going to do that in a video and find its legitimacy by the time this video ends. I don't know if we've ever done that before in a video, but either way, we're going to do it today. So the story kind of begins like this. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Dean Malone. He runs a site called Compass FX. I'm not sure if it's around anymore. And he claimed credit for creating this indicator. Usually, origin stories like this, when it comes to indicators, are not important. That's why I don't talk about them, because they're really a waste of time. But I was a frequent visitor to Compass FX back then, so I was probably one of the first people to actually use this indicator if what Dean Malone said was true. I think it actually started out as a paid indicator, which is insane. And I think I might have actually paid for it, which is even crazier. But it is a series of indicators all rolled into one. And when I first started using it, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best thing ever invented. But not too far after that, I completely stopped using it. And I haven't even looked at it since. And so when people started asking me about it, I had to really kind of dig deep. I'm like, why did I stop using that thing? I remember it had this one really good part. And for some reason, I haven't touched this thing for like 6-7 years. So let's try to get to the bottom of this. So before we do anything, let's talk about all-in-one indicators, because you don't see them very often. Now, a lot of you guys are testing indicators right now. I mean, how often do you see a complete put-together system that's right there for you to download? Does not happen that often. But here's the thing I wish I knew back then, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you this now. When you see these things, just remember, when you have 4 or 5 indicators all wrapped up into one bundle, you better make damn well sure every single one of them works really well. Because you take one that doesn't, it's going to screw up everything. It is one heck of a commitment. And if there's anything we've learned up until this point, is that most indicators just don't work very well at all. So the odds are really, really against you. So the best course of action when you see something like this is to break it down. You can often, within these prepackaged little systems, find an indicator or two that work really well and find a way to isolate it and test it out, see if it works. This is going to be your protocol, your course of action every time you run into one of these things. And yes, we will be talking about this again in a later video. I said later. Much later, actually. Stop asking. But for those who don't already know, let's talk about the pieces within the TDI indicator. The first one, you're getting an RSI. Uh-oh. Not only part of the Dirty Dozen video, but likely one of the shittiest indicators you're ever going to run into. It is represented by the green line in the TDI, and it is accompanied by a moving average that acts as a signal line. So when one crosses the other, depending on where it is, that's your signal to go long or short. Now, sometimes by adding on another element and getting some sort of confluence, you can make a bad indicator into an okay indicator. And maybe, just maybe, we might actually be able to salvage the entire thing, provided the other two pieces of this indicator are actually solid. So let's see what we have. Oh, no, it sucks. You will find an element of Bollinger Bands in this indicator as well, represented by the blue line. So now you have two indicators in my Dirty Dozen, which for those of you who have not seen the video, I will link it below, but 12 of the worst Forex tools out there that everybody just happens to use. And you're getting both of them in this system. What could possibly go right? And then you're going to see a line that doesn't really move a whole lot called the market baseline, which is really, from what I recall, just a moving average set to 34. I don't know if it's simple or exponential, but either way, that's really all that is. And this is represented by a yellow line. So these are, if you want to look at them one more time before we move on, because we're actually going to look at this on my charts. These are the four lines, and these are the colors of those lines. So you'll know what you're looking at. But let's go ahead and just kind of go to the charts and go over this again. All right, so we are at the Euro-Dollar daily chart, as we often are. And the TDI is what you see below. It's one big hot mess, isn't it? You have the Bollinger Bands right here in blue, pretty easy to spot. There's the market baseline going ever so slowly. And then the green is the RSI, set to a setting of 13, I believe. And that is supposed to be what gives you the signal to go long or short. This is an entry indicator. So there are a few ways to actually use this. So for example, if you wanted to go long, you would wait till both of these lines are above the yellow, and then every time the green goes above the red, you would enter. And so you see a couple of decent trades, a couple of pretty bad ones. We talked about this before. This is a really bad area to trade. This will really expose a confirmation indicator that gives you way too many signals, and this is definitely one of them. Another way is, I think they call it the hook, to where the RSI comes outside the Bollinger Band and then comes back in. That's a reversal signal. So you can also take that. Some people do it when the green crosses the yellow. There was never really one defined way to use this, which is already a problem. But in a way, it was kind of cool because you got to use your own creativity. When you have something like this that has multiple different ways to enter, you can kind of test those ways out yourself and find out which works best for you. And I must have tried every single way in the book. But it all, for some reason to me, kept coming back to that yellow line. Everything else, to me, just moved too fast. But it seemed to me that every time this yellow line changed direction, then price was officially about to change that direction as well. So if you look at it, it's going long, it flattened out. We're just looking at the yellow line now, ignore everything else. Up, flattened out, and then started to go down right here. Now you did have a retracement, but the yellow line was correct. We ended up in a downtrend. Then right here, I'd say right about here, it started to tick upward. Again, you had a retracement, but price did end up going up. And so I wouldn't use this as my absolute signal line, but what I would do is I would put other indicators with it, and in a situation like this, where the line had just started moving up like that, I would make sure that I would only enter long trades because the prevailing trend was about to go up because the yellow line told me so. And I tested this over all different currency pairs, and god damn it, was it not the most accurate thing every time it did that. It might not have started going in that direction right away, but it was certainly about to. So what I did is I just went to the TDI and got rid of everything else. And I've shown you before how we do this. Anything that's not yellow, we're going to turn into none. By doing that, you can isolate the good pieces of an all-in-one indicator like this. There we go. Now we're just looking at the yellow line. And I tested this thing over every currency pair out there on, I think it was like the 1 hour or the 4 hour chart, whatever I was trading back then. I can't even remember what it was. But no kidding, this thing hit like anywhere from 85 to 90% of the time. It was that accurate. Traders, do you know how crazy that is? I mean, so many of you are testing out indicators now. How often do you run into one that as a standalone indicator like this ends up hitting at an 85 to 90% winning clip? Almost never. So when you do find one that does, there's a chance, and by there's a chance, I mean there's a really, really good chance that you might be dealing with a repainting indicator. Dun dun dun! That's right, a repainting indicator. They do happen, and they really, really suck because they trick you into thinking that you had just found the Holy Grail, and when you actually forward test it in real time, it just kicks the shit out of you. And if you're not testing on demo, which you should be doing, you can really lose a lot of money with these things. So what a repainting indicator is, it's an indicator that shows different data after the fact. So you are looking at any given time on an indicator, you are looking at past data. And what a repainting indicator will do is if you just wait a few candles later, some of that old data is going to change. It's not going to be exactly the same as it was before. And that can be a real big problem. Actually, it is a real big problem every time. Because when you were backtesting, a lot of signals that you would have gotten are no longer signals. A lot of winners that you thought you saw this indicator give you are no longer winners because the signals that you are getting in hindsight are different than what you're getting when you're actually trading. Any data, any line that you see on an indicator that shows data from the past should stay exactly where it is. It shouldn't move. Repainting indicators will actually screw with that old data by making it move. It's horrifying. So if you think you might have a repainting indicator because it is just working too darn well, what you need to do, and this is the only time I will ever recommend you do this, is go to the 1 minute chart. Put that indicator in and watch it run in real time and see if that old data moves or if it doesn't. I'll show you what I mean. So back we go. We're at the euro dollar, but we're on the 1 minute chart now. So things are moving fast. Now I'm shooting this video late at night in hopes that we can catch this thing moving. Good, it is moving. That's why we do it. Now what I'm looking for is for anything back here to adjust, to end up in a different place than it is right now. What I did before when things were moving. It's okay if this moves right here. We're looking for this back here to start moving. Nothing yet. Okay, so what I did before is every time there was a signal to go long or short, I put an arrow just to see if everything would stay that way. And it did, except for one spot right here. This line had actually gone down a little bit. But over time, because price kept moving one way, it flattened out. And so what was a short signal became a nothing. All right, every time this thing ticks in the other direction, that's a signal. So it was a long there, it was a short there. You know, you got a whole lot of bad signals here. That's fine. But at least we're going to see if these are true signals or not. And they weren't. This is supposed to be a long signal right here. The long signal didn't even happen till later because all of this data right here changed when price starts shooting upward like that. So let's see if we can catch it. There's no real news events going on right now. I hope we can find something because I'm not going to sit here and waste your time. But it's this crazy phenomenon. If you guys ever want to do this yourself, you will see what I mean, and it's damn near spooky to watch this data move from where it was before. Knowing my luck, we're not going to see this happen at all, but I'm going to give it a little bit of time, and hopefully you'll see what I mean. Oh, come on, price, do something. Nothing really. What I really want to see is price start moving short, like hard, like in a big way. That will end up screwing with the data from the past. But it looks like it's not really going to do that. But this is why we do the 1 minute chart, because the chances of something like that happening are much more frequent. And then you can see if there's any kind of movement at all, a little further back from where price actually is. You have a repainting indicator, and you need to get rid of that thing for good. Still waiting for it. I don't think we're going to get it. Oh well, you guys can do this on your own. Preferably do it like right before a big news event happens. There just happen to be none right now, or even coming up in the next hour. So I'm not going to be able to show it to you. But that is how you test. More than a handful of times, I've seen the data right back here kind of take a different shape than it is right now. And like I said, if it does that even in the least little bit, you are dealing with a repainter. You want all of this data right here to stay exactly where it is. If it moves at all, then you need to get rid of that indicator right away, because it is going to cause you nothing but trouble. And you can play the little game that I played too. Every time there's a signal, put an arrow on it and see if, maybe 2 hours down the road, go back and see, are those still long signals? Are they still short signals? Did they happen right where I put my arrow? If the answer is no, even one time, you have a repainting indicator. I hope this makes sense. I was really hoping I could have a really good example for you, but it's just the time of day and the fact that we have no big news events coming up. So I took a chance at the high school dance, and we came up. Oh, did you see that? Did you see what just happened right there? Go rewind if you didn't. That shit moved right there. It's doing it again. I knew if I waited long enough it would happen. Look at all that. This data should not move, but it is. That is a problem. Good. I'm glad. I feel bad for you guys who are looking at this on mobile phones, because it's really hard to see. But if you get the chance, go to where you can enlarge your screen, and look, it's moving again. And see exactly what I'm talking about. Go to the 17-minute mark all the way up to the 18, and watch all that previous data move around like that. Yeah, look at it. Data should not do that. Indicators should not do that. This is a repainter. It's fucking trash. Get rid of it. So that was super exciting for me. I was really worried that we'd be sitting there staring at a chart for 1 or 2 minutes and not see anything materialize. But we did, and we saw an indicator actually repaint right before your very eyes. So out of all of the pieces of the TDI, the one that I actually liked, the one that really had potential, ended up being a frickin' repainter of all things. So I'm sorry to say, but this story ends in tragedy. But that's okay. Most indicators do, so we're kind of used to this, right? But again, it's not a total loss. In conclusion, I just want you to know, to avoid this indicator, the TDI indicator gets like 880 searches a month on Google. I mean, people are talking about it. People are looking it up. And it really does seem cool at first, because there's so many different ways you can use it. And if you find a way that actually works on the surface, it does get you pretty excited. But if you learn anything from this video, because you will run into this in your indicator search, many of you already have, learn how to spot and test for repainting indicators. You should never use them. You should avoid them at all costs. But you can't avoid them unless you know how to find them first. All right? So hopefully you learned that from this video too. So overall, just be happy. Look, I know you guys don't always like it when I spend an entire video just trashing something. But this is a good thing overall, because you will no longer waste your time on something like this. You'll no longer waste your money on something like this. And there's always a little takeaway from videos like this. And the takeaway here is how to locate, find, and test repainting indicators and what that whole test process should look like. Because if you're not aware that you're using one, you can use these things for months and not even realize you're using a repainting indicator. And you're going to wonder why you're just getting your teeth kicked in over and over again with something that used to work so well. So videos like this really do save you oceans of pips in the long run. And here at No Nonsense Forex, we win by not losing. And the less losers that I can prevent you from, the higher your bottom line is going to be. So be happy and look forward to videos like this where I end up trashing an indicator or a concept or a tool or something like that, because the little nuggets contained within these videos are some of the best on the entire channel. Now, people seeing this channel for the first time, have you ever seen a video like this before? I guarantee you have not, and if you want to see more, you should. Subscribe and hit the bell. Don't miss any of it. We operate on a different frequency here, and it's the clearest signal you're going to find. But for the rest of you, I hope you took something away from this. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you're able to take it with you and make your search and your trading that much better as a result. But it all means nothing if you're not going out and doing those two things. So get after it and go get it.